Coach, they brought you in here to be special teams coordinator. What have you learned about your special teams since you've gotten here?
Coach Wilson makes it a priority. It is the heartbeat of our program, and he is very passionate about building a solid special teams program, special team phases of the game, and how they assist both the offense and the defense in field position. And when he speaks to the team and he speaks to the coaches, he's very clear on if you are starting on offense or defense, I should say, we do expect you to have a facet of special teams. So you're not dealing with the guys that aren't good enough to start on either side and then have to use them on special teams. And like today's scrimmage, Les Morrow, Josiah Tarafa running down on point cover, Stanley Dye, Blaze Moorhead, Gunners, Balin Baker, David Anzadola. Those are players that play significant snaps and quality snaps, and they're out there on teams. And that's probably one of the biggest things that you have an opportunity to embrace as a special teams coach, is that not only does he demand that of his players, if you're out there during practice, guys, every coach has a piece of the puzzle, from Coach Camp and Coach Visa in protection to Coach Sands with the returners, to Coach Castle and Coach Darren Wilson with the Gunners. Our assistant head coach, defensive coordinator, works with the Shield, and he will be in every special teams drill, not because we ask him. There are times when he does have a piece, but because he wants to. He understands the importance, and it's just, I was talking with Coach Wilson the other day. We were doing some drills, and we were watching film, Coach Wilson and I said, I've not seen position coaches teach teams with the detail that they take. They take a lot of pride in their work as it applies to their role in special teams, which, gosh, it's just a breath of fresh air.
You know, and also, Coach, don't you think that's kind of an area? I know everybody kind of talks about it, but some teams some teams are more committed than others.
Absolutely.
Very well, special teams, of course. But do you think that's a kind of an area, facet of the game that's kind of easy to kind of go home, ho hum, kind of.
Right.
It's part of the
talk the talk, and not necessarily
it's what we do all between offense and defense.
Yes,
and stuff,
because you can talk the talk, and then you can have 9 out of 11 of your players walk-ons out on the field.
Yeah.
Which you're not getting that on offense or defense. So he does. He preaches it, and then it's applied. Yes. And Coach Wilson will talk to you now. Special teams starts the game. We start with the kick, and he starts practice that way, because he believes the transition from our stretch to our field goal block. He says that sets the tone for our entire practice. So it is a true. It's a true area that Coach Wilson takes a lot of pride in. I am fortunate to be working under him in that he asks for all those coaches to be a part. Okay, put these guys to work, because it's not just your voice, it's our voice, and that's building the program around that. I mean, that's our punt return, Greg Campbell, Kirk Johnson, Matt Guidry. Those guys were back there fielding punts, and look at the guys that were blocking for him. You had, I'm trying to go through some of the names that we saw back there. You saw Lawrence Jackson back there, who's was offense, now flipped to defense. You saw Brennan Johnson, Martell. Martell's in every facet of our special teams, and these guys play quality reps defensively. So those are things that you have a lot of fun with, We were talking, we had a nice practice the other day, and I said, well, Coach, we got all the pieces of the puzzle because we kind of put some things together. And he goes, I really like our personnel. I said, yeah, couldn't agree with you more.
And you think because you are still a young program, I mean, you're still a fledgling program, that you need every kind of, I'm not going to say advantage, but every facet of the game, you've got to open every door. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not like you've been around for 30, 50, 100 years.
They do the studies now. You if you're on the return side of things, and you're stopped inside the 20, you have a 1 in 30. That's inside the 10. You have a 1 in 15 chance of scoring. So 1 out of every 15 possessions you would score if your return doesn't get out to the 20-yard line. And so that obviously affects our offense. And the flip side is if you're on coverage and they can get out past the 25, out past the 30, you take that 1 in 15 chance of scoring, and now it's up to 1 in 8, 1 out of every 8. So it's a true extension. And Coach Rollins preaches that to his defense when he meets as a unit, that our coverage units are our first play of defense. And so if you're a starter on defense and you're running down on punt or you're running down on attack and you need a breather, you'll take that breather on defense before you take it on our coverage units, because if we can get them inside the 20, the same is true for us defensively. They have a 1 in 15 chance of scoring.
Right.
So that those types of things, if I'm saying it, okay, it might catch one of 5 players. If our defensive coordinator is saying it, our offensive coordinator is saying it, and then it's obviously reinforced by Coach Wilson, then every player in that room feels the importance of what you're doing on special teams, and that is the magic. It's more than one voice speaking to them about the importance of the field position. We let a punt hit the ground today. Right, cost us 14 yards of hidden yardage, and every coach talked about that.
Yeah.
So,
Special team can make or break a game.
Yes,
they
it can.
They can
Yes,
kill
it
you,
can.
or they can.
and it's one, and Coach Borges speaks very, very passionate about. He goes, it's the only time when you put the ball in one of the most dynamic players on the field, and then ask players to tackle him in space. Right? Isn't that what you try? I mean, you have that third down back, right? That you get him the ball, and he's a difference maker. Okay, we'll do that every time you kick the ball off to that guy that's fielding it, or you punt the ball. That's probably one of their most dynamic players they have on their team. And then you got to go make a tackle in open space. That's not easy. It is not easy.
Coach, along those lines, they haven't, I don't know if you're aware, they haven't had a kickoff return here or a touchdown. Is that, how do you, I guess, try and break that spell? Is it just, you just kind of just keep grinding on what you guys?
We refine our fundamentals day in and day out. It's more than just the guy carrying the ball. Some of the toughest blocks out there are those frontline kickoff return blocks. It's very difficult to make those blocks to get in position. That's the best thing I can say. It's not that, hey, we're not trying to do that. If it happens, great. It means everybody's on the same page doing their job. But what we want to do is we want to be very consistent and set the offense up for a score. That's the best. I don't have an answer on you that. We'll do our best, but we do want to be very sound when it comes to fundamentals on either side, whether you're working returns or covered.
On the coverage side, you have two pretty good kickers. Have you been able to kind of see what you have in both of those guys, both Jared and Giannis?
Well, Jared is kind of picking up right where he left off. He's working a lot of chemistry. We have a new snapper in Grant Merca, and those two are working some chemistry out. Yanni was holding for Jared last year, so that has really helped. But he comes in and he really takes pride in what he does. He refines his steps day in and day out, and they work very well. Now with Yanni, you saw a little bit of heavy balls today, and he had a couple very nice punts beyond 40, and that's one thing. No different than Jared. Jared's, a great kicker, an all conference kicker. But if you can't protect for him, I mean, Eric Banks, TJ King, there's some guys protecting for him on the wings. Trey Shannon, tackles, Jalen Gilmore, Don Pastucci. Some of our best offensive linemen are on there for protection, because if we're not protecting it, Jared needs that protection, no different than Yanni. So Yanni's veteran of the group, and you see his leadership in that. You really do. Right. Those guys, when I say those guys, the specialists really kind of, what I want to say, work towards him, lead by his example, I guess is a way to say it. Right. And that's his veteran. Like as good as Jared is still young. And him and Yanni really work well together, because Yanni gives him some wisdom. He's older, he's very mature, and not to mention with Grant Merca, he's a junior snapper, but he transferred in and hasn't played a game in a while. And so Yanni's a very calming factor for all the facets. Right. And you love to have that in your position group. where if we need to ice bath or something like that, or if we need to work on something, Yanni will come in and he'll say, "Hey, coach, I think we need to go work on this." You love that, and the guys really follow his lead on the development of their craft, because he is a senior and he is still developing and refining his craft, and he leads that example. Because what do you think Jared does when you have a senior in Yanni that takes extra time or goes out early to work a catch and a mold or his steps? Well, Jared follows right along, and he's out there not, hey, I'm as good as I need to be, and I'm going to be okay with that. He really doesn't have that mindset, and he gains that insight, that wisdom from Yanni.
Right.
Coach, a couple of years ago, Yanni had a stretch. I want to say it was like 6 or 7 game stretch where he was punting some balls down there. He put this funky mojo on the. I mean, he has different arcs and things that I know he works on different things, to put different rotations and whatnot, and it was phenomenal, the number of turnovers that were created just off of the different spins and stuff he was throwing down there at these other players. Has he? I didn't see so much of that last year, and that's why I wanted to ask: has he sort of been? Is he still working on that? Has he still got that in his repertoire?
And
Just
he
those
does.
different
He does, but it is a progression like anything else. We have to be able to protect for those types of punts that you're talking about, and we really haven't gotten to that yet. He worked on it throughout summer on his own. He does have that tool in his toolbox, so to speak. And as we continue to develop our entire punt unit, you'll see some more of those things come into play, because those end over end, those balls that take those funny bounces for returners, he has that. We have to be able to cover that, because it's a little bit different with your coverage and your protection. So as we develop in that unit, you'll see some of those different types of punts, or different end over end, some of those different roll stuff.
I didn't know if you had been with him long enough to see all that stuff yet.
We spoke in detail about that.
I mean, it was crazy what he had going on a few years ago. Like I said, I didn't really see all that much of it last year. I mean, it didn't create as much havoc last year, I guess, as it did the year before, but I guess he's still...
And there's a learning curve. I mean, the other teams have coaches as well, so when they know that a young man has that, they're going to attack it differently. Maybe even play a little bit more reserved as a returner, because that ball has the ability to bounce some different ways. But he has it. We've spoke on it, and he even trained like that in the summer. So because in the summer it's individual work, so he can work those skills without the entire unit following along.
Right. Maybe he's got some new wrinkles for his system.
Let's see what he can do.
Where did you get your passion for special teams? Was it a player about several years, or who instilled that in you, the importance?
A while back, I had the opportunity to GA under a coach by the name of Jeff Banks, and he taught me pretty much what I know, and one of his best messages was, how you address special teams, your players will follow suit. So if you're addressing the team, and as it applies to your coverage units or your return units, and you're very casual about it, well, they're going to mimic what you display. And I think you touched on it earlier when you had said it's one of those things that many times coaches might talk about it, but don't put in the work to improve on it. And you'll hear a lot of the coaches talk on, we're not going to ask you to do anything we're not willing to do ourselves. So when it comes out there and we're asking you to play with effort, we're play with enthusiasm, well, what better impact can you have on them than to show them the same? We're going to have fun doing what we do. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to ask for their best, and they control that. And I think that's where it comes from. And Coach Banks was one that kind of led the way. He was very passionate about it. And so I was fortunate to learn under him and be able to kind of move on. And, that's everybody wants to see.
And that was it. What college was that?
That was, I first worked with him at a school out in El Paso as a GA when he was at UTEP, and then I was a quality control for him at Texas A&M.
Okay, I thought that was at UTEP.
Yeah.
Special teams kind of like the game within the game, right?
No doubt. It's so true right there.
Just my favorite.
Where is the situation? What have they done in the past? You're absolutely right.
It's the third leg of the stool.
It's my favorite part. It's my favorite part of the game. That's what I'm not-